This video is a record of the work we had done in a boatyard due to water ingress. So we had water coming up
straight back on us.
around this transducer.
Yeah, straight back. So we're still leaking. God damn.
We also had an accumulation of water in the bilges under the boards in the boat, which I detailed in episode 2. I think they were coming from various sources, transducers and the like. So we had it hauled out of the water and popped up into the boatyard. There she is. I'll just give a quick tour. So we can see the keel there. We got a bit of rust on the light. And yeah, there's me just pointing out one of the through holes. That's Rob climbing up the outside. Doesn't look that high, but when you're looking down, it seems a lot higher. But it gave us a good chance. Now we've actually had the boat in the water to give it a good inspection and figure out what we could get fixed while it was out the water. Underneath the hull, we can see the anode there, that both of the bolts are leaking through the hull where that's held on. And to the rear of that are the 2 cockpit drains and the transducer for the speed log, again, which is leaking. So while it's out, I do a quick check, make sure the propeller rotates freely. You can just see the rope cutter forward of the blade there. The replacement transducer is bigger than the old one. You can see it there side by side. It's thicker. It's a 2-inch diameter, this one. So that actually made putting the new hole through the floor there easier because it was larger than the one it replaced. You can also see the 2 cockpit drain seacocks have been replaced and new tubing to either side of that opening. So here we've removed one of the old through-hull transducers. It didn't actually go through the hull. It was a pingy thing for the hydrograph. And the bolts that hold the anode on there have been sealed. This is up underneath, and we can see there's a hole there for the new transducer and 2 brass rings, which are the new seacocks for the cockpit drains. And along there we see the anode with new bolts in it, all of which have been nicely sealed to stop any water ingress. Part of the work we wanted doing was some new deck hardware. So on the port side, just by the companionway there, you see we've got a winch, 2 clutches, and there's a deck organiser. We want to replicate that on the starboard side so we can run the topping lift and probably a spinnaker halyard back to the cockpit to make life easier.
Check it out. I love these brass.
Yeah, great.
And this is new.
Yep.
Oh, he hasn't put the transducer in it. It's just old at the moment. Fantastic. And the rusty bits have been touched up.
We did compile a list of stuff that needed doing on the boat, and the first and most important was the boat must be dry, stop the leaks. So this was high up our priority list. Going forward from this, we do plan a rewire, but we'll probably do that ourselves. And we need to work on some of the rigging. It's just we felt that much of this work was beyond us. And once we'd had it hauled out in a boatyard, we were better off letting the professionals get on with the job. Back on deck, we can see that the boatyard have actually made a start using the drill, fill and drill again mechanism for fitting deck hardware. We'll see a bit more of that in a moment. That's one of the keel bolts that they've been addressing, and this is just us looking back at the hardware. So that is the existing hardware. This is where the new stuff's going to go, and he's masked it over there in order just to protect it while the epoxy cures. And from the inside up the top of frame, you can actually see where the epoxies there has been put in to hold the clutch and the new winch in place. And there we are back at our keel bolt, which has been addressed because that was leaking as well. This is our next visit to the boatyard. We've got a little bit more painting been done on the keels, so that's coming along. With the boatyard being down in Gosport, it's a bit of a trek for us all to actually get there and out. And here we are on a subsequent visit, and again we've got grain primer on the keels now, and they really are progressing. So it's starting to look really quite nice, which we were impressed with. We were discussing at this point what we do when it actually comes to collect the boat, and we decided that we didn't want to drive into Gosport and end up with a car in Gosport. On this occasion, they'd finished the deck hardware, so that was the deck organiser. There's a new 2-speed winch and the clutches. That's just the main halyard that's been run back through at the moment. We're going to get the topping lift through, but the line isn't actually long enough at the moment because it finishes on the mast in front of us. We need to put a longer line on before we can make that work, and that's just the finish on the inside. You can see a bulge now where there's metal plates behind it, and this was us testing the transducer and making sure that as we span the wheel, we registered the boat speed on the top dial there down the bottom, BSP. So that's actually showing that it works, which is phenomenal, because for so long we've been struggling to get anything to work at all. While it was out the water, we decided that because it's got Dartmouth written on the keel and we keep the boat in Portsmouth, we were going to change the labelling. So out came the heat gun, and Rob got on with getting the old lettering off, which was I think it's been there for quite a while, so it was quite tricky to remove.
Yeah, I need gloves really to.
While we were sorting this lettering out, we noticed that the transom had become quite badly scuffed below the lettering by a fender that we'd had on the transom while it was at its previous berth. So we thought we needed to sort that out. We started by trying just some alcohol wipes, but all that really did was just take the paint off. So after a little bit of that, we gave up on that, and I decided to go back with some T-cut to see if some automotive T-cut could clean it up. So I polished away for a while, and it came up really quite nicely, enabling us to put our new sticker on, which I think looks much nicer than the older tiny little one. I'm quite pleased. The final coat of paint has gone on the keels, and they are looking really rather resplendent. The time had come for us to go and get the boat out of the boatyard and take it to our new mooring at Wicker Marine. So we got a lift down to Portsmouth Harbour Station. That's HMS Warrior over there by the Naval Dockyard. The Spinnaker Tower over the top of the railway station there as we walked down to the Gosport ferry. We stood in a queue for 5 minutes while we waited for the ferry, but you never really have to wait long for the Gosport ferry. It's pretty regular. In she glided, everyone jumped off, and then we were allowed to go on. Pretty seamless, really. Cost on the ferry is about £4.80 a head for a return. We were, of course, only going one way on this occasion. We took our seat and then waited to cross where we could get a good view of the splendour of Portsmouth Harbour and all the ships in it. Off the other side and a quick walk round the corner to the boatyard. So we walk past this crane, and there, straight in front of us with the black mast, is Tikai back in the water. Fantastic. We quickly walked down to her because we wanted to see the work that had been done, and the fact she was in the water now, did anything leak? We were really pleasantly happy. Everything was bone dry. Fantastic. So we started up the engine to go motor back to our new mooring at Wickle Marine. The new transducer enabling the instruments to display correct data for the first time.
Yeah.
Approaching our new dock, the tide was on the ebb and moving really quickly. We turned round and lined up and then realised we were going with the tide. So we had to go down a bit, turn around and go back again. So we were heading back into the tide, at which point we could dock successfully. Having docked, we immediately went to check the old points that had been leaking. Everything dry as a bone. Delighted. And here we are, sitting at our new mooring. The new mooring sits mid-channel, so while it gives us a big advantage in terms of being able to get in and out in any state of tide really, it means we have to use a tender to get to and from the boat because there's no passage direct to land. With our collapsible dinghy on the pontoon, we had to assemble it. Of course, we've done this before in a previous video, so we knew what we were doing this time, and it only took us a couple of minutes to put it together, get it in the water, ready to row across to the other pontoon on the main marina.
Brilliant, isn't it?
Is it? Truly terrifying. Oh, dear Lord.
Okay, alright, alright.
Maybe I should have sat the other end.
No, alright, alright.
We'll be at Portsmouth Harbour entrance.
We're not going to be that tide, unfortunately.
No. Maybe some sort of motor.
I think I'm not moving with that transit.
No. So I think you're going to have to try and...
I think what we're going to do is aim for that gap there between those two boats, and we're going to walk her up.
Fine. But you're going completely the wrong direction right now.
Yeah, there it is, right. Just the nose going.
Yeah, just get her over there.
Right.
Both over 6 foot and me too heavy. We need a bigger boat. Thought I'd show you a quick map of our journey. The red dots show the Gosport ferry from Portsmouth, or Portsea Island as it's known, over to Gosport. Portsmouth Harbour in the middle there, and our final destination of Wickle Marine.